So, all right, I'm excited to dive into this last one with you. We've kind of alluded to the fact that we were going to talk about this at some point over the past few weeks, but it is officially time to panic in Buffalo right now. They let Mac Jones and the Pats beat them on a game-winning drive, as we talked about earlier. That brings them to 4-2 on the season, and it doesn't look like it's going to be great going forward. They've got the 6th hardest remaining strength of schedule, and I was looking down the schedule. We can read it off if you'd like, but they're probably favored in 2 or 3 matchups maybe. I mean, at this point with how they've been playing, it's going to be tough for them going forward. And Josh Allen, I mean, I can totally get where you want to say that Josh Allen has been good this year. Like, in comparison to most quarterbacks, yes, Josh Allen has been good. But in comparison to what we're used to seeing from Josh Allen, I feel like we're starting to drift back towards what he was at the beginning of his career, which was a mistake-ridden, like, risky quarterback. And I think that we've seen a lot of that so far this year. He has 7 picks on the season, which is tied for second most in the league. He's thrown at least 1 pick in all but 2 games this year. He has more turnover-worthy plays than, let's read them off here, Dak Prescott, Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Baker Mayfield, and Deshaun Watson. So that is not great company to be in, and he has the lowest PFF overall offensive grade since 2019, which, as I mentioned, that was really before Josh Allen became Josh Allen. So serious concerns in Buffalo right now. This defense has also had its struggles. It's struggled specifically against the run game. They didn't have Ed Oliver in this past game, so they're looking forward to getting him back, but they need to get Von Miller ramped up. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, and I'm excited to hear your spiel on why Buffalo should be slamming the panic button right now.
You're depending on a 37-year-old, 36-year-old, whatever he is, Von Miller, to come back and save your defense. You just lost Tre'Davious White. Milano's still hurt as well. I don't like this team at all. I coming into the season, I put $25 on them to miss the playoffs. I was very, very vocal about just not being good. I said that this is a team, every single year, they've gotten worse as far as where they've ended the season the previous year to where they were the next year. It's either been the same or it's been worse. And what gives me the confidence to say that this is still a Super Bowl caliber team? They've done nothing in the playoffs. I also think there's a disconnect, and I've been saying that from the end of that Bengals game when they got blown out in the playoffs all the way until now. There is something chemistry-wise that is just not there.
Bingo.
Josh Allen
ding, ding,
and
ding.
either
Yeah.
Diggs, Diggs will have his moments, but then he'll also have his boneheaded moments too, where him and Allen aren't on the same page. Gabe Davis had, 1 catch this game, I think?
Yeah.
The tight ends have been decent, but not great. And there's still no run game. James Cook is a receiving back. And I think that's what we're seeing so far is you cannot rely on him to hand the ball off to him down in goal-to-go situations. They're still a pass-happy team, and that's what they're always going to be. And nobody wants to talk about it, but Sean McDermott needs to be on the freaking hot seat, man. Like, if Josh Allen's on the hot seat and everybody else is, why is Sean McDermott's name not up there? I don't think he's that good of a coach. If you've got all this talent, how are you not putting up better results? They're 4-3 now, and we've seen this. They can beat the best of the best. They kick the shit out of the Dolphins, even though we've got our question marks about the Dolphins now. But then they lose games to, the Jets in week 1, the Patriots this week. You got to start to wonder, is this team I'm not going to say is it time to rebuild, but they've put all their chips in, and I don't think it's paying off right now. I had them ranked as the 15th best team coming into this year, and based on their record, that's basically exactly where they are. They're a mediocre, middle of the pack team in this loaded AFC.
Exactly. Like I was talking about Josh Allen. Like, he's been a middle of the pack quarterback so far. I mean, in some respects. But it's like, that's not what we're expecting from Josh Allen. He's a top 3 guy. Like, every time I see him on TV, he's on the bench, looking down on his iPad, because he's disappointed in something that he just did. Like you mentioned the chemistry thing. Like I think that he feels uncomfortable on his own team. I think he's scared to make those mistakes. He just reminds me of like a first to second year Josh Allen, that was making a lot of mistakes and just kind of didn't seem like he was getting the roll of things. And I mean, I always have this picture in my head. You mentioned it, like Diggs putting his hand up in the snow and Josh Allen just looking down at the iPad. Like it seems like that has happened a lot this year. Not Diggs coming out and specifically bashing Allen, but that chemistry is just off in Buffalo right now. And as you mentioned, like you try to rely on a 30, how old is he? 38-year-old Von Miller?
He's 36, 37, something like that. Yeah. And you've already lost one of your focal points with Trey White. Milano got hurt as well. Like you said, Ed Oliver was out. We know that Jordan Poyer's gone through his fair share of injuries as well. So if you're going to turn the ball over, you have to have the defense to hold the team. Like, for instance, Jalen Hurts has a ton of turnovers this year, but what does he have that he can at least rely on is the defense to bail him out. Josh Allen doesn't have that. So as much as I want to put it on him, it's also the defense as well. And if you look at their schedule, they've still got at the Bengals, at the Eagles, they've got at the Chiefs, and they've also got the Cowboys.
It's a tough schedule.
Those are 4 games that I am circling right now. They're going to go 1-3. They might go 0-4 in those games. 3 of those being on the road, I think, is a big question mark. They've also got the Jets left. They've also got the Patriots again. They've also got at the Chargers, and they've got at the Dolphins.
Yeah.
There's some tough games. What's going to happen is they're going to play here in about 48 hours on Thursday Night Football, and they're going to kick the shit out of the Buccaneers. And everybody's going to be like, oh, the Bills are back in the talks for Super Bowl contender, and this is the Bills team we thought of. It's not going to change my opinion. It's just like in week 2.
Yep.
They kicked the shit out of the Raiders, and everybody's like, oh, they're back. And then they beat the Commanders. Oh, this is the Bills team we thought. And then they beat the Dolphins, and I was like, okay, but let's wait. Let's see, because I didn't really fully trust the Dolphins all that much. And then they went to London, lost to the Jags, and they should have lost to the Giants.
Yes.
They should have lost that game on Sunday Night Football. There was a hold on Darren Waller on the untimed down from the 1-yard line that was not called. They should have lost that game. And if they had lost that game and they were 3-4, I can't even imagine what the talks would be right now. McDermott's got to be gone. They've lost 3 straight, 2 of those at home
Von
to
Miller's
teams that aren't that
down
great.
For the season because, you don't even want to bring
Diggs is going to be traded. Yep. It's everything would be in the talks. So they're 4-3. They're still in line to make the playoffs. But if you're a Bills fan, you've even started. As a fan, you always want to have that optimism. You always want to have that glass half full mindset, like, oh, on paper, this is a team that should be there at the end. We can compete with any team in football, yada, yada, yada. But even as a Bills fan, you've got to start to question this a little bit, that maybe this team is not as good as we once thought they were, or what's missing type of deal. And I think it's just a chemistry. I agree. I think it's a chemistry thing. And I think that with the missing pieces on the defense, man, teams are going to be able to put up some points against them. And if Josh Allen's turning the ball over, it's not good. The last 3 weeks, he has accounted for 1 first-half touchdown. 1. So it's not only, we used to see this roller coaster of Josh Allen, like 1 game great or 2 games great, 1 game bad. We're seeing it in games now where it's like first half bad, second half great, or first half great, second half bad. I mean, look at that Giants game. They were awful. The Patriots game, they were awful. The Bills game, they were awful. I mean, the Jags game, they were awful. This is a team that is just going to keep going the roller coaster. And when you get into playoff football, you can't have those roller coasters.
No.
You have to play your most consistent, fundamentally sound, turnover-proof football in order to win games. And if you're not doing that, you're going to get the brakes blown off of you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's time to panic in Buffalo, to say the least. Like you said, you can't throw it all on Josh Allen. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it's just like, it's not what we're used to seeing out of Josh Allen. This is an aging defense. I mean, not only do you have Von Miller, but you have Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. You're relying on them as a safety duo. And that's been one of, if not the greatest safety duo in football for a long time. But for a long time, they're old. They're starting to get past their prime if they're not already there. So definitely, and you mentioned the running game. They lost Damian Harris, who they paid in the offseason, and you kind of it was shaping up to be like, okay, James Cook will probably get most of the passing work. He'll probably get most of the third down work. Damian Harris will be your in-between the tackles guy. Now you don't even have that. Latavius Murray is getting a ton of work, who probably should belong on somebody's practice squad as opposed to getting like real minutes for the Buffalo Bills, who are a Super Bowl contender, or as we thought. So they need to figure something out. I know they brought in Fournette for a workout at some point, so they need to figure something out. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, and that's why we're starting to slam the panic button in Buffalo.
And there's no coming back from, Milano fractured his leg. He's out for the year. Tre'Davious White, he's out for the year as well. They lost their defensive tackle, Daquan Jones, as well. Probably not as significant. But those two, between Milano and White, those are two of your quarterbacks of your defense, and they're not coming back this year.
No.
Like, you are stuck without them for the rest of the year. And from what I've seen the last couple of weeks, this defense has shown a lot of big gaps and a lot of big holes. Von Miller coming back, yeah, that'll probably help you out. Him and Greg Russo will be a very nice tandem. You get Ed Oliver back, that's going to be good as well. But there's some holes now that you were not expecting that you now have, and I think that it's part of the game.
Yeah,
we see it. Year in and year out in the NFL, devastating injuries completely derail teams' chances, but it is just a part of the game. And unfortunately for the Bills, it's coming at probably the worst time. And like I said, they're going to beat the Bucs, and everybody's going to hop back on. But I'm not sold on this team at all. I'm not sold until they beat a team, even on the road. Like, I need to see them win a big road game, like against the Bengals or the Eagles or the Chiefs that they've got coming up in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Win one of those games, and you got my eyes, you got my attention. But until then, I'm still believing that this is not a team that is going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. This is going to, we're going to get blown up in the comments like, oh, panic time in Buffalo, ha ha ha, look what they just did on Thursday Night Football when this video comes out. But then the real litmus test starts, like you just mentioned, when they play Cincy in 2 weeks on the road. They're only favored by a point in that game right now. So I think Cincy might even be favored for a point. I might have been looking at it wrong, but it's going to be a close game in Cincy nonetheless. So we'll see what happens as we head down the road for the rest of the season.